If you've been using Cerave, you need to watch this. I'm a toxicologist, and here's why you might want to swap this brand and so many more that are sold on store shelves right now. Be sure to watch this video until the end because I'll also be sharing my top low-tox skincare secrets. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button and bell to be notified every single week when I post a new video about low-tox living, how to make it easy while still getting results. I love helping new and aspiring moms protect themselves and their families from environmental toxins, and I can't wait to help you right now. So what's all the fuss? What's wrong with Cerave? This is one of the most highly recommended brands by dermatologists, skinfluencers, estheticians, you name it. I mean, what's not to love? It's accessible and affordable and works. And in case you didn't know, this cult favorite is actually harboring a hidden toxicant. Well, not so hidden, it's on the label. The best way to know if your products contain ingredients of concern is to turn it over and look at the ingredients list. Ignore the marketing claims like free of this, free of that, non-toxic, clean, pure, because the only thing that matters when it comes to product safety and ingredient safety are the ingredients. The rest is just a bunch of hype. Why bother checking ingredients on your beauty and personal care products? Number one, skincare can expose us to a multitude of chemicals through several different routes, including the skin, eyes, and lungs, and even through the oral cavity or ingestion, depending on where the product is used, of course. Consider the fact that most people layer on several products every single day and sometimes even multiple times a day for potentially decades of their lives. These are what are considered chronic exposures, and they are not to be overlooked. But you might be wondering, why does it matter? How much of this stuff is actually getting into my body anyway? I'm just putting it on my skin. The fact is, the products that you're applying to your skin do get into the bloodstream. Maybe not all of it every single time, but it is getting absorbed into your bloodstream. The exact amount depends on various factors, and it isn't always going to be the same. It's an absolute myth that 60% of what you put on your skin can get absorbed within 27 seconds. That logically just doesn't make any sense, because if you can imagine how many chemicals we're exposed to, it just doesn't make any sense that all of them would get exposed at the same rate and same amount every single time. It just doesn't make sense. But what does matter and what does make sense is that absorption into the bloodstream can occur depending on the types of ingredients in your products, such as combinations of penetration enhancers along with other chemicals of concern. Another factor that's important is the hydration level of the skin. Especially if you're using a product that is meant to cleanse, more often than not, you're using water. Water is going to hydrate the skin. Hydrated skin, on the whole, in general, tends to absorb more than dry skin. The location of the skin also matters. For example, the skin of the scalp absorbs more than skin on other areas of the body for several reasons. There's a large number of hair follicles typically on the scalp, which generally comes along with more blood flow to the area. So the ingredients that you're applying to your scalp generally can have higher rates of absorption and amounts of absorption compared to, let's say, the skin on your elbow. Occluded or skin that's covered up can also have higher rates of absorption. Imagine the areas of your body that generally stay moist and covered up, like your armpits or even down there. This is why drugs that are delivered dermally or through the skin tend to come with a patch to keep that area covered up to prevent loss of the drug or chemical through evaporation, just as an example. So we've established that the chemicals and substances that you apply to your skin can penetrate the skin and get absorbed into the bloodstream, which is known as toxic absorption. The narrative that your personal care, skincare, and beauty products are not toxic and not affecting your health is absolutely false and hazardous to spread. Several key studies that were published recently show this. They show the direct toxic effects and consequences of applying endocrine disrupting chemicals to the skin via skincare and body care products. This study from March of 2023 is groundbreaking, and it is one of the only studies that has ever shown in vivo, meaning within the living subject, in this case human women, that chemicals applied to the skin can have a direct effect on cancer genes and cancer gene expression. Women who were invited to participate in this study had to meet several criteria, one of them being the regular use of personal care products. at least one of them containing parabens or phthalates, having no personal cancer diagnosis besides skin cancer, and having a regular menstrual cycle. This study was only taking place over a 28-day period, which is really short relative to the lifespan of a human. So this is not technically even a chronic exposure study, yet the results are pretty damning. Researchers collected breast cells via needles injected into the breast of these volunteers. So hats off, major kudos and gratitude to the women who were brave enough and strong enough to participate in this study, because I don't know how many women out there would be willing to have their breasts injected and cells aspirated for the purpose of scientific investigation and human and environmental health. So this is really amazing. Researchers collected cells before and after the study. They asked volunteers to switch out their personal care and beauty products for those that do not contain parabens and phthalates for a period of 28 days. They even went as far as to switch the products and put them into silicone containers to avoid any potential leaching of plasticizers, which generally speaking, the concerns are endocrine disruption, into the products that they're applying, and they don't want that to influence the results. What they found was absolutely astonishing. Within just 28 days, that's less than a month, of switching to products that are free of parabens and phthalates, several pro-cancer or cancer-promoting genes were turned off. So this means at the beginning of the study, when they still had parabens and phthalates in their blood, these cancer-promoting genes were still activated in their bodies. Technically in the breast specifically, because that's the area that they were studying. But who knows what other pro-cancer genes in other parts of the body were also being activated by these substances. As you know, the endocrine system is all over the body. And just because it is an estrogenic-like compound like parabens and phthalates doesn't mean it can't affect other areas of the body outside of the reproductive system. So of course, the ovaries, cervix, and uterus are all responsive to estrogens. So we really have no idea how far and widespread these effects are. But specifically for this study, they saw that just in less than a month of switching away from products, breast cancer genes turned off. This is astonishing. This was further supported by the significant reduction of phthalates and paraben metabolites in the urine. This is a paradigm shifting study because toxic chemicals or chemicals in general aren't tested for toxicity on humans because it's considered unethical. But what should be ringing alarm bells right now is the fact that industry has long claimed that these ingredients are perfectly safe, your skincare products are safe, your beauty products are safe. All of this nonsense about switching to non-toxic or low-tox products doesn't make any sense. You have nothing to worry about. Well, you get to decide. It's not unreasonable to wonder how many breast cancer cases through the decades and long span of time that these materials have been used in personal care and beauty products have been attributed to phthalates and parabens. It's really mind-blowing to think that all this time, how many cancer cases could be linked to these chemicals. Remember that this experiment solely focused on only 2 endocrine disrupting chemicals out of thousands more. And specifically, the only thing that these women changed were the skincare and beauty products that they were using. They didn't change their diet. They didn't change any other part of their lifestyle. This was only via skin and beauty care products. Both phthalates and parabens are suspected endocrine disruptors, or also known as xenoestrogens, because they have estrogenic activity in the body, which means they can interact with any cell type in the body that has an estrogen receptor. And just so you know, estrogen receptors are almost everywhere in the body. You can find them in the brain as well as the reproductive organs in both males and females. So clearly, these xenoestrogens are activating and have the potential to activate cancer genes within our bodies. To take this a step further, there was even an earlier study conducted on adolescent girls where they asked volunteers to switch out their personal care products to be free of parabens, phthalates, triclosan, and benzophenones, which are all suspected endocrine disrupting chemicals that are found in beauty and personal care products. This study took place only over a 3-day period. And even in such a short time, because these chemicals have a short half-life, they don't really stay in the body, they don't necessarily accumulate, they saw a 27 to 45% drop in these metabolites, the metabolites of these chemicals in the urine within just 3 days. This experiment is important because it shows that techniques that are common and accessible to all consumers, such as reading ingredient lists, choosing personal care products that are free of these chemicals, again, specifically parabens, phthalates, triclosan, and benzophenone, and searching for safer products through online databases can significantly reduce personal experience to endocrine disruptors via skin and beauty products. Remember, it's not about singling out and vilifying one ingredient at a time. It's about the entire combination of the multitude of ingredients and chemicals and xenoestrogens and endocrine disruptors that we are exposed to 24/7, 365 on a daily basis. And also remember, it's the effect of layering on multiple products at a time that have similar ingredients with overlapping effects and functions within the body. These two studies taken together show clear evidence that parabens and phthalates in beauty and skincare products, personal care products, are absorbed through the skin, reach the bloodstream, which is reflected in the levels of these compounds in the urine. And by the way, in case you're wondering and thinking, oh, this is only found in the urine, in order for a chemical or a metabolite to reach the urine, it must have gone through the blood first. So I want to provide more context because a study back from 2004, nearly 20 years ago, there was a lot of controversy around this study because it showed that parabens were detected in breast cancer tumor samples. There was so much pushback and so much buzz about this article because it was really showing that these parabens are not as innocuous as we're led to believe. And now, fast forward 20 years later, there is such damning evidence. These chemicals should not be used in personal care products. They shouldn't be allowed to be sold as such so that people are being exposed every single day. And especially if these are in products intended for adolescents, which, by the way, a majority of adolescents report using beauty products. So imagine how many exposures it might take before a cancer is actually detected. So now it's clear as day that products sold on store shelves aren't as innocuous as we're led to believe. And manufacturers really need to be doing more to ensure that their products are safe before they're sold to us. But of course, that would cut into their profits. So let's see if that actually happens. In this regard, the US can really take a page out of the European playbook because in the EU, since every chemical that is introduced into the marketplace must have a certain amount of toxicity testing data, depending on how much of that substance is being sold per year. But even with toxicity testing, there are major gaps in knowledge because most studies, if even conducted, are usually on rodents, which doesn't always translate to humans. Let me know down in the comments, have you ever noticed parabens in your products? You might be wondering which popular beauty and skincare products contain parabens and phthalates and should be avoided. Let's go through a typical routine. I did a quick search online and also on Sephora's website, and here's what I found. So first, Cerave foaming facial cleanser. This one thankfully does not contain fragrances, which is typically code for endocrine disrupting phthalates, but it does contain methylparaben and propylparaben. This is a rinse-off product, so the contact duration with our skin is short. But given the fact that people can wash twice a day for potentially decades of their lives, depending on how much they love this product, it's really unclear exactly how much of these hazardous ingredients are being absorbed into the bloodstream. But remember, this is just one product and most of us tend to layer on more than one. So let's keep going. Another Cerave product, daily moisturizing lotion. This one contains, again, methylparaben and propylparaben. The issue with this product is it is a leave-on product, meaning that it sits on your skin and it isn't washed off until the next time you wash your face, which hopefully you're not using the foaming facial cleanser because that also contains parabens. So you're putting it on, taking it off with products, both of them have parabens. You get to decide if that's something that you want to risk. When a product sits on the skin, the contact time is longer, the duration is longer, therefore the increased risk for toxic absorption is there. So let's say you are more into something like Tatcha skincare. The Dewy Skin Cream Plumping and Hydrating Moisturizer. Thankfully, this one does not contain parabens, but it does contain fragrance. check the ingredient list for parfum or fragrance, because this seemingly innocuous little ingredient can actually be comprised of up to nearly 4,000 fragrance and other functional ingredients, including endocrine disruptors like phthalates, carcinogens, and potent allergens. You can check to see the types of fragrance chemicals used by checking the IFRA website for their transparency list. This is the International Fragrance Association, which is the trade association for the fragrance industry. So you might be wondering, how is it that manufacturers don't have to disclose what's in fragrance? Well, the regulations allow them to enjoy proprietary protection over their formulations. So the only people who really know are the ones who created it, and really depending on the relationship of the fragrance manufacturer to the customer, which is the product company. Sometimes the manufacturers will know, sometimes they won't. It really depends, and it's all very hush-hush and secret. Some estimate that phthalates can be used in a fragrance at up to even 20%, which is a massive amount. If you're looking for products at Sephora and basing your decision on the clean at Sephora labeling, remember that they don't ban phthalates outright. They still allow them in products below 1%. 1% may not sound like a lot, but again, if you are using multiple products layered on top of each other multiple times a day for long periods of your life, these exposures, like I said, are not to be ignored. So what about body lotion? I did a quick search while I was in a store the other day, and I found Nivea Original Moisture Body Lotion. This one is a triple whammy. It contains fragrances, like I said, which are likely code for phthalates, plus 2 parabens, methylparaben and ethylparaben. And this is a leave-on product. Some people, like me, used to use this product daily, on top of all the other products that I was using. So it's almost impossible to determine the exact body burden that one would have from all these products combined. The good news is when I searched Sephora's website, I didn't find any facial sunscreens that contained parabens, which is great. But I did find several that still contained fragrance, of course, potential for phthalate exposure. The 2 that I found were both by Shiseido. One was the Urban Environment Fresh Moisture SPF, and the other was the Shiseido Clear Sunscreen Stick SPF 50. Now, what about makeup? Manufacturers claim to be phasing out parabens due to consumer concerns, but now, of course, as I mentioned, it isn't just a consumer concern, it is a legitimate health concern. Beauty makers are still adding parabens to their products. Unfortunately, some of the ones that I used to use, I found out have parabens. One of them being Anastasia Beverly Hills Stronghold Clear Brow Gel. Again, this is a leave-on product. It contains 2 parabens, methylparaben and propylparaben. Another one of my previous favorite products is also by Anastasia Beverly Hills. It is the Dip Brow product. This one contains propylparaben, so thankfully only one form, but still it's there. And again, it is 2 products that I used to use every single day on my face. Some of the products that I did find in my quick search, so what I did was just go to the Sephora website, search for lip products, and I sorted based on the best sellers. In the top 10 or so products, I just did a quick search, looked at the ingredient labels, and this is how I'm getting this information. The Dior Lip Glow Oil has fragrance in it. You can also see it as parfum on the label. The website doesn't mention phthalate free, so that's a red flag. And of course, why would you need a fragranced lip product? It doesn't really make sense. More often than not, we'll see flavors added to lip products, which makes more sense because it could potentially get into your mouth and you'll taste some of it. Fragrances, however, in case you didn't know, and flavor chemicals overlap. More often than not, they're the same. One of the mascaras that I found on Sephora is one that I also used to use, Lancome Definicils. Hopefully I'm saying that right. High definition lengthening mascara. The website specifically mentions no phthalates, which is great, but it still contains 2 parabens, methylparaben and propylparaben. I even checked in some common lip products that maybe if you're not using makeup, then the concerns through makeup don't apply to you. But if you're someone who's using a lip product like a chapstick, for example, I was a diehard for the Cherry for most of my life. This one contains fragrance. Again, why fragrance? Because fragrance can contain phthalates. Flavors, on the other hand, do not allow the use of phthalates. So if you see flavor in a product, then that's an improvement over fragrance. But remember that the carcinogen and allergen concerns are still within flavor. I'm glad to say that of the 12 lipsticks that I checked on Sephora's website, none of them contained parabens. But one of the lipsticks, which is made by Gucci, a matte velvet lipstick, did contain fragrances. It didn't say phthalate free, which is something that we do want to see. And hopefully manufacturers start phasing out fragrances in products that are intended to go on the mouth. So just because I didn't find any products that contain paraben that are intended for use in the lip area doesn't mean that they're not there. So be sure to read every single ingredient label before you buy a product, because manufacturers are known to change ingredients all the time without notifying us. So there's really no telling when these ingredients and if these ingredients can sneak into our products. We have to be judicious and diligent about reading every single ingredient label. And as you can see, parabens and phthalates are still likely found in some of the most popular products out there. So be sure to check the ingredient list before you buy it. What are some better beauty and skincare brands that don't contain parabens and phthalates? Ideal products, ones that I prefer, contain mostly plant-derived ingredients, are wholesome and minimally processed, and bonus points if they are organically farmed. And really important to also have them packaged in as little plastic as possible to circumvent the issue of potential leaching of PFAS and phthalates and bisphenols and other plasticizers into the products that I'm applying to my skin. Plus, materials like glass and aluminum are infinitely recyclable and non-leaching. Some of my favorite brands are Earth Harbor. This brand was created by a fellow toxicologist and also an herbalist. They are gentle yet effective. They have a nice scent to them without containing any synthetic fragrances or undisclosed fragrances. And I even use some of them for my kids, specifically the mermaid milk when they have dry skin on their cheeks. They absolutely love it. Another one of my top brands is Meow Meow Tweet. One of my favorite products of theirs is the deodorant cream. They make both a baking soda and a non-baking soda version. In case baking soda causes irritation, then they make a non-baking soda version, and they use organic ingredients. They're vegan, and it's also packaged in glass. So all you do is take a little bit on your finger and rub it under your arms, and it is extremely effective for me. And other people in the community have also commented that they love this product. But if you're not someone who's interested in dipping your finger into a pot, they also make deodorant sticks in paper tubes, which is great because the paper tube is recyclable and biodegradable. So being recyclable is not the only thing we should be looking for. Biodegradable is even better. And if you're looking for lip care products that are truly low tox, my favorite brand is Fit Glow Beauty. They're one of the few brands that has actually taken the extra steps to ensure that their products have very low, if not no, PFAS contamination. And if you're not aware, PFAS, known as forever chemicals, are nasty fluorinated Teflon-like compounds that are everywhere in the environment. They're pretty much in every single person's body. They accumulate and they don't break down. They are correlated and actually linked to several different types of cancer, endocrine disruption, miscarriage, cognitive defects, and so much more. So avoiding PFAS, in addition to parabens and phthalates, benzophenones, bisphenols, all of these endocrine disruptors, is really going to help you reduce your body burden. And in case you are concerned about the potential for cancer, then this is one of the things that I really highly recommend looking into, is avoiding as many endocrine disruptors as possible. If you need help understanding how to read ingredient labels on beauty and personal care products, subscribe to the Low Tox Tuesdays email series, created by a toxicologist that teaches you how to detoxify your beauty and personal care products as well as your entire home the easy way. You can find the link to subscribe to the email list as well as my favorite products in the description below. Thank you for watching, and be sure to check out videos that I post every single week. And if you found this video helpful, consider subscribing and hitting that like button. I'll see you on the next one.